one of the things to keep in mind as we run small businesses in the government contracting space is that we all have pretty similar journeys, right? We get started off and we either have this thing where we struggle to get any traction, or when we do have traction, we feel like we get a pretty good traction, and then we hit this lull. Either things drop off or they just stagnate, right? And we're not growing anymore. It's what I call, right, being stuck or not growing any longer. And for all of us in government contracting, and in particular, I guess in life, it's important to keep in mind that we're on a roller coaster. We're not on this cliff where you go off and you fall down, or a slide, right? You come down at a playground, you're on a slide, you fall off and you slam into the ground. We're on a roller coaster. Government contracting is a roller coaster journey. You go up, you come down, you go up, come down. Me personally, I would like to have a lot of this shallow diving instead of like the scary drops. But no matter what, even if it's a scary drop, it's still just a roller coaster. And so you know that when you're coming down and you're going to hit that, you feel like you're going to hit the bottom and it's scary. Well, at the bottom, you're just going to hit this curve that's going to start taking you up again. And so keep that in mind as you go forward. No matter where you're at in your journey, you're always on a roller coaster. And so you always have this ability to come up high above the park and to be able to see, everything that's beautiful out there. And when you accept that you're on a roller coaster, you begin to identify, where on the roller coaster am I? If you see there might be a cliff coming forward, and even very successful companies have cliffs where they are not cliffs, but dips on the roller coaster where it drops. That could be the end of a really big contract we had, and we need to figure out, what are we doing? Right? Are we going to lose the recompete? Or we got other work? Are we going to go down and come back up? But when you accept that, you'll be able to move forward. The other thing I wanted you to keep in mind, and I appreciate you being here because you're here to grow, right? You're looking at this and going, well, why is my business at a certain stage? Whatever stage it's at, maybe it's not where I want it to be, or maybe it's in trouble, right? But one of the things to keep in mind, no matter what stage you're at today, is that growing when times are good is actually the hardest. A lot of people, they think they're growing, or they face challenges, et cetera. It's very easy to grow when things are hard. When you've lost a contract, or you're going to lose a contract, or this bad thing happened, or that bad thing happened. When you feel like things are down, you rally yourself around solving that problem. What I would like you to encourage, what I would like to encourage you to do is keep in mind that when you're doing really well, and that might be you today, but when you're doing really well, that is the time to really look at your business and yourself and go, what can I do to improve? How can I make sure that those dips on the roller coaster aren't as steep and scary as they have been in the past? And so if you look at your business in good times, that is the very best time to work on your business. And then let me just share my slides here. As we get forward into today's topic about why small biz govcons stop growing, it's really important to just keep in mind that we've all been there. Many of us have been there. And so you don't have to go alone. If you haven't seen my training on 7 mentors out there, go watch that one. You have mentors around you, free mentors that are out there and who want to see you succeed. If you're not talking to them on a regular basis, you're missing out on somebody who can help you realize that you're just in a dip and it'll come up. And they can give you guidance beyond just even what I'm doing. But so today I'm going to cover down on 3 main areas related to being stuck and not growing. First thing is, I just want you to understand, how do you know if you're stuck, right? How can you recognize when you're stuck, or how can you recognize when you're about to get stuck? The second thing is, how do you find out why you're stuck? How can you look in there and figure out, am I stuck? Where am I stuck? And why am I stuck? And so I really want to drive into that in that second bullet, the where and the why. And then the last thing is, which I'm assuming a lot of us want to figure out, maybe you too, is how do I get unstuck? If I feel like I'm just doing all the same things, but I'm not really having different results, I'm going to give you some tips that you can move forward on. And just keep in mind, I have 400 videos that I've done just in the last 2 years alone that talk about how do you succeed. And so today is dipping into one area, but there's a lot of more free training that you have access to. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you, government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow the process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want you to be able to have, is repeatable and predictable positive results for your company. If you haven't done this already, do me a favor and sign up, subscribe to the newsletter that we put out. Government Contracting Success. It's right here on LinkedIn. It's where we put a lot more information out there. In fact, yesterday I just did training on a capability briefing deck, and I'll put a template out plus a lot more guidance into the newsletter. That'll be my way of distributing to everybody, so I make sure I'm maximizing my reach. But go subscribe to the newsletter. And then also, for those of you who signed up for coming into today's class, I think we had almost 100 people registered for today's session. First off, thank you. Second off, if you haven't done that, please do that going forward. It's an easy way to say thank you to us, but it also allows LinkedIn to let other people know that this training is valuable to you, and they'll let them know. And then, like I said in the beginning, it's a great way to network. If you sign up to attend, right? It's right here on LinkedIn. It's free. If you sign up to attend, then you're able to see the profiles of the other people who are attending. And literally, it's like walking into a conference room session where there's 100 people, 150 people in a room. But imagine if all of their profiles were right there for you to be able to reach out and say, hey, I saw you in Neil's training. I'd love to catch up, see if there's a way to fit, or I'd love to just stay connected on LinkedIn so that we can be supportive of each other, however you do it. The last thing is when you come to the trainings, please invite others. Don't hold this to yourself. Bring a friend, bring a colleague, tell a teammate about it. Okay, so let's talk about how to know if you're stuck. I think one of the most obvious ones is you're not getting any new money, right? There's no net new revenue growth. And what I mean by net new is if you were $1 million 3 years ago, and 2 years ago you were at $1 million, and last year you were at $1 million, there's no net new revenue growth. So that's one thing, is you're just stagnant. The other thing is you're not winning any new contracts, right? This is really important, that you should be winning contracts. I look into companies every single time before I ever talk to anybody. I'll quickly go look at them on DSBS and USA Spending. That's my favorite thing to do, is to go to USA Spending and see the reality of their federal contract dollars. They might have subcontracting and other stuff, but I can see pretty well. I'm like, I can look and see a company. It's like, they've been like this. They got up a little bit. They're down in a gully. And when I have a conversation with them, I'm a little more prepared. But I can also look and see at companies that are doing 15, 20, 30 million or something, and look at the number of contracts they've won recently and realize, you haven't won a contract since 2021. Some people like one contract in the last 3-4 years. That means you're going to hit a down spin on your roller coaster. So that's one way to know that you're not winning, is if you're not winning a contract every single year or multiple, right? Then there's something that's going to cause you to be stuck. Excuse me. The next way you can define if you're stuck, and you know that you're stuck, is if you don't have a pipeline, right? First off, if you don't have an official pipeline tool, and it could be a spreadsheet. I don't like spreadsheets, but it could be that everybody is using the same one. That would be a pipeline. But if that pipeline is empty or anemic, meaning there's just a few opportunities in there, or worse, there's 1,000 opportunities and no one's really looking at them, which makes that second part of being unreliable. If your pipeline is empty or unreliable, then that's an indicator that you're stuck. And certainly it's an indicator that you're going to be stuck coming in the future. You're going to be more and more stuck, because really opportunities are one of the lifebloods of success in government contracting. And the last one I have here is you don't have any new strategic relationships. So a lot of us, we have success in the beginning. I have a company that I'm going to be working with that is a lot of their success, early success, is because they worked at an agency. They came out, started a company, went back and built relationships with the very people they just spent, a decade having relationships with. And so they were able to do that, all legitimate, right? But my point is they went back. And so this happens with large businesses or with agencies where people come out and they go back in, and they've got those initial relationships they've had forever, but they don't have any new relationships. And so that is a clear sign that you're stuck, is if you don't have new relationships, because at some point the existing relationships run out of money. They run out of opportunities, et cetera. They've awarded you everything they can, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere else. One last little bullet I put here is just another way to see if you're stuck, is if you're still working in your business, not on your business. If you're a billable person, if you're doing construction work, you're doing IT work, et cetera, if you're in there, if you have to be with the customer, you must be with the customer, you're billable, et cetera, then that means you're working in your business, not on your business. And that's a sign that you're stuck, because you're focused on just doing the job at hand instead of really trying to grow your company, instead of looking into the future on the revenue growth, new contracts, et cetera. So these are just some ways of knowing if you're stuck. But fundamentally, it comes down to, if you're not getting new contracts, you're not getting money, more money, then that's a problem. And this is the same, by the way, for a company doing 100,000 or 100 million. You can look in there and go, if we're not getting net new revenue growth, then we're on a path to, the downslope of a roller coaster. So let's talk about how to find out why you're stuck. I want to use 2 slides to talk about that. And the first one is I just wanted to show the 7-step process for federal revenue success that I built several years ago. And it is my way to just simplify the federal government roadmap for success in here. And so if you look at this, the way it's lined up, there's 2 sections, right? The first section is a path to relationship. And this includes the first 3 steps in the process: research, targeting, and outreach. And when these 3 are done, you're able to build relationships. You'll identify and build strategic relationships. When you do that, you're on what I call the wheel of success. And once you're on the wheel of success, your success will not stop. You will not get off that wheel unless you choose to get off that wheel. And sometimes you choose to get off that wheel by ignoring your customers, right? And they're like, well, certainly there's the path off. But when you have relationships, it will lead to opportunities that enable you to write winning proposals so that you can start winning. And when you're winning, customers love you and you have more stronger relationships and newer relationships. And it's just this circle or wheel of success. And so this 7-step process, if you haven't seen this before from me, I would encourage you to just print this screen, or you can put a message into the chat saying, handout, please. And I've got a second page that goes with this that kind of explains each step. So you can put handout, please, into the chat. I'm happy to send that at some point. But let's talk about that 7-step process and reverse engineer it. And what I mean by reverse engineering is, let's figure out we're stuck. And let's stop pretending like we may or may not be stuck. Let's just assume we're all stuck here for a second, that you're stuck and I'm stuck. How do we find out why we're stuck? And really, what can we do about it? So beginning at the end, right? Begin with the end in mind. Beginning at the end, let's say you're not winning contracts, right? You're not getting that net new revenue and you're not winning contracts. So you're not making sales. Then you need to be submitting more winning proposals. And by the way, I don't intend on teaching you any miraculous thing. Everything I'm saying is the very basic, straightforward guidance on what to do. So of course you need to submit more winning proposals in order to win contracts. If you're not winning contracts, only two reasons contribute to that. One is you're not submitting proposals. And the second is you're submitting proposals, but they're not what I call winning proposals. A winning proposal is one that the contractor will look at and go, oh my gosh, I wish we could award to this company. In fact, they're in the award pile. And the challenge is sometimes there's 2 or 3 or 4 companies writing winning proposals, and that's cool, but you should expect to win 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 proposals you submit. If you're not submitting those proposals and winning on a 25% or better basis, then something's wrong in there and you can start looking at it. Why are we not, at that point, you're thinking to yourself that we're not submitting winning proposals. So we are submitting enough proposals, but they're not winning proposals. Proposals that the contracting officer goes, oh, finally, a vendor who gets us, right? So if you're not submitting winning proposals, or if you're not able to submit enough winning proposals, the problem is always directly related to the opportunities you have in your pipeline. 2 parts about that. Do you have slam dunk opportunities in your pipeline, right? So you need to make sure you have a sufficient amount of opportunities in your pipeline. I was just working with somebody where they have like a $5 million goal. So the pipeline, the way that we build it out, is $240 million in value, right? We're not going to accidentally miss that goal that they have. We're looking at the right amount of opportunities in the pipeline. I have a lot of previous training on how to build out your pipeline, what's a slam dunk opportunity, et cetera. But a slam dunk opportunity in the short is one that I can win. So your slam dunk opportunity, you should know that it matches your core competency to a T, right? The second thing is you've got past performance experience to do that. And so that's a slam dunk opportunity. You need to find more of those slam dunk opportunities. And the second part of it is you need to do capture, which is really just having conversations with the customer, teammates, et cetera, to learn enough about that opportunity to write a winning proposal. And again, you can watch a whole training or 2 or 3 that I've done on winning proposals, but they all begin to feed themselves. But what if you don't have enough slam dunk opportunities? This all works reversing the process, right? Coming back. If you don't have enough slam dunk opportunities in your pipeline, it's because you currently can't find find these opportunities. And the reason I pause there for a second is one of my favorite transitions in my life is I grew up with this idea that can't is a bad word. No such word as can't, blah, 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 blah. And then I had kids and people taught me how to be nice to kids, which it would have been nice for me to be nice to adults. But this idea of when I talk to my kids, I have 2 sons, right? 10 years old. When I talk to them, I've taught them not to say there's no such word as can't, but when they sit there and say, I can't do something, we just add the word yet at the end. And it makes it okay to say, I can't do this yet. You can't find slam dunk opportunities yet. But the way that you find those opportunities, besides all those tools that are out there, right, is to build strategic relationships with industry partners, teammates, and with government buyers. When you have strategic relationships, and you can watch a lot of training on that, but I say you should have 24 strategic relationships. That's easy to maintain. When you have 24 strategic relationships, you will hear about opportunities. I'm working with a customer right now, and they're trying to drive towards this water space that they're in. But because they have such good relationships, they keep getting invited into similar type work. And so they're hearing about opportunities. Some of those opportunities are like, yeah, thanks, appreciate it, but that's not us. And others are like, oh, that's awesome. Thanks for inviting us in. Through these relationships, they're able to identify slam dunk opportunities just from those people. Add together your ability to look in SAM or on contract vehicles or GovWin or whatever, you really are able to build out that pipeline with slam dunk opportunities. But what if you don't have the strategic relationships, right? How do you build strategic relationships? This is where a lot of people struggle. This is why the workshop that I run is all about really establishing the strategic relationships at the end of the workshop. That's the idea of it. And I tell you in these trainings exactly how to do this, right? So if you don't have enough strategic relationships, then what you need to be doing is reaching out to more people. I put in red, by the way, if you're able to see the colors, right? Each one of the red words relates to the 7-step process that I showed you a minute ago. And so you want to do more outreach. This is the last step of that first phase to build relationships. If you do research, targeting, outreach, you're going to be able to build relationships. And doing more outreach to new people means calling more government people every single day, calling more teammates and saying, hey, can we get together, see if there might be a fit, right? I have a particular customer I was talking to this morning, and I was suggesting that here's 100 people that somebody on their team should call and see if they can get a meeting. And when they call those 100 people, that's outreach. They're not going to get a meeting with all of them, but they'll be able to get a meeting with, let's say, 30 or 40 of them. And then of those 30 and 40, they might build a relationship with 2 or 3 or 4. Right? You have to reach out to a lot of people before you find a strategic relationship. But when you do, those people are gold. They're golden geese to you, and you're a golden goose to them because you're helping them grow as well. But if you don't have enough strategic relationships, you need to do more outreach, which is basically just picking up the phone and calling people. But what if you don't know who to call, right? And so going backwards from outreach is targeting. You want to implement a targeting plan. And a targeting plan is just identifying the names, numbers, and emails of people you're going to call. And so you need to do this research. A couple of days ago, I can't remember if I actually shared this yet or I will, but I've done this multiple times. But earlier this week or end of last week, I was able to find 10 different org charts, and I gave them to somebody on my team, and I said, hey, go get names, numbers, and emails for these people. Well, the org charts had names on them already, but there was like 100 plus people on there. And then I handed them an agency directory that had all the people, all the numbers, all the emails. This is targeting. It's just literally about building a list of 100 or 200 people in your target agency so that you can do outreach in order to build strategic relationships. But what if you don't even know the type of people? Who should I be calling, right? It's not even what people, but what offices, where am I calling? This goes to that last step. When you think about why you're stuck, right? You're stuck because you can't call people. Well, you can't call people because you don't know who to call. Well, you don't know who to call because you haven't done research. And so if you don't know who to target, do more research. These agencies put out such good information. I just shared a document yesterday, I think. Actually, I shared another one today, which is even better. Today, this morning on LinkedIn, I just put out a DoD management and performance challenges document. And the reason that document is so good is from that, it gives me all sorts of links to other areas and offices that are having these challenges within DoD. My point is, these are called rabbit holes. You can go down these rabbit holes doing research, which is totally fine. You should spend 40 or 80 hours doing research on your target agency, not on an individual you're going to call, right? But on the overall agency. I want to know about NOAA as an example. That agency, if I dig in, I find their strategic plan, I find their budget, and I start looking in and I can see how they're organized. When I do that research, I start figuring out which offices I want to go to, which enables me when I want to do targeting to look into LinkedIn or go into their website and find people. If I go into LinkedIn on a particular agency, I will find 1,000 people. And from those 1,000 people, I might go find them on an industry day slide and find 10 others that are, connected to them. So this research leads to targeting, which makes it so much easier for you to have a list of people to call, which then you can start building relationships. When you have these relationships, you'll hear about slam dunk opportunities, enable you to write winning proposals, and that's how you'll start getting more money, right? It really is, let me just go back here, right here. It really is as straightforward as this 7-step process. There's work involved in each one of those, right? It's called procedures. Inside of each process step is a set of procedures of how do you do that. But every one of these steps, I have a ton of training that you can get to. So keep this in mind when you're trying to figure out how to find out where you're stuck or the bottleneck. You can use your process that you follow and just reverse engineer it back the way I just did here. Okay, so let's move on to the last slide here, how to get unstuck. These are just a couple of tips for you. If you're stuck and you're moving forward here in 2024, it's January 30th when I'm doing this live. Two main things I want to talk to you about. One is refreshing your marketing asset. The other is KPIs. So the first thing is when I look to get unstuck, especially 2024, the beginning of the year, refresh your marketing assets. You know how like sometimes you go off and buy a new shirt or some new clothes, get a new haircut, you're kind of refreshing yourself. It gives you a bit of energy. Well, you can do the same thing to your company with your marketing assets by giving it a 2024 makeover, right? It doesn't have to be radical. It just has to be updating it. By updating it, you're reminding yourself, you're getting yourself excited and your team about what you guys sell and do, but you're also going to get your customer excited. So 2024 version, and the first place you start when you're refreshing your marketing assets and what your company sells is just confirm your clear focused offer. Your clear focused offer is we do this, this, this for these people, right? In order to achieve these results. But really, it just needs to be, right? We do cybersecurity around risk management framework and GRC, et cetera. We do elevator, our core competencies, elevators, installation, services, and operations and maintenance. Something like that clear focused offer allows you to just be able to say, this is what we sell and it's niched down. The second thing you want to do is just look at the 6 marketing assets. And I have many, many trainings you can go look at. So just go to my LinkedIn profile. You'll see a link there. I'm sure somebody put into the chat the link to this, my replays on all the training. But you want to update your DSBS profile. You want to make sure your capability statement is updated and then in DSBS because it's got its own link. And then go into LinkedIn. This is where buyers engage. Buyers do not engage anywhere else except for in a meeting, maybe a little bit at a conference, but then in LinkedIn. Nowhere else on the internet do they engage, but they do on LinkedIn. You can find them out there. And then your website capability deck. And yesterday's training was on the capability briefing deck. Okay, so the first thing you want to do to get unstuck is just refresh your marketing assets. So then, by the way, you can also let people hey, I refreshed it. Do you mind taking a look? And now you're re-engaging those relationships you already have. But the second thing I want you to do is to establish, and you should do this before give yourself 24 hours max to get this done. Establish can't miss KPIs, key performance indicators. A key performance indicator just means if I say a number of daily calls, then I want to make 5 calls a day to a new person. So if you build that targeting list, you just work off that spreadsheet, right? Or it's 10 calls or 25 calls. You choose the number you're comfortable with, but whatever number you set for the KPIs, do that every single day. If you do that every day, you will start building strategic relationships. The second KPI is you need to establish at least, so I said you should have 24, but I would submit you start small and say, I want to establish 8 strategic relationships with teaming partners. If I'm under 10 million, let's say, with teaming partners that are in the agency I want to get into and that are doing $5+ million, right? When you establish that criteria and the number, that's your KPI, then drive towards that. Those daily calls are leading you towards those relationships, but get those relationships in place. If you're really targeting into an agency, then add 8 more relationships, and these 8 next ones are in the federal agency, in the program office you're trying to get into. By the way, not small business specialist, not the contracting officer, program office. That's the hard part, right? If you can get in there, then you're really getting traction. And then the last one is slam dunk opportunities. Figure out what you need in your pipeline. We need 10 opportunities that are $5 million average, right? And in the pipeline, and then get those in. When you establish these can't miss KPIs and you start tracking on them every week, are we on track? Did we make this many calls? Where are we on the path to strategic relationships? And how much do we have in our pipeline? When you start doing that, you're giving yourself a measurement. And this is one of the first things you can do to get unstuck. It's like somebody getting behind your car and kind of pushing it, trying to get you out of the sand and the mud. One of the things I don't want you to do is don't give yourself proposals or sales goals as a KPI or something you're measuring. That's just way too hard on ourselves. All right, here's what I want you to remember as I'm trying to wrap up at 12:30 here. Government contracting, it's that roller coaster. If you're on a downswing, don't worry. You will not hit the ground. You'll come up and it'll be really more exciting than the first time. The second thing is, remember, you've got a bottleneck. We always do. Figure out what the bottleneck is before you start working on the next stuff. And then as you do, establish those KPIs to keep you accountable. If you want that 7-step process, put handouts, please, in the chat. Always throw a please in there for me. And I'll be happy to try to get it to you as soon as I can. For all of us, just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.